Pixies, welcome to Manny's and Monsters Part 4. There will be one more part on Thursday. I've really enjoyed this series and I hope that you did as well. But I will be doing a super fun manicure today. You'll be watching me work while I read paranormal stories from subreddits. And these are supposed to be true stories. Obviously, I have no way of proving that, but the storytellers say that they in fact happened to them or somebody that they know. I tried to put prompts on the screen as to the product I'm using, what I'm doing. Everything will be linked down below along with discount codes. So let's go ahead and get into our stories. Our first story is titled An Entity Touched Me. Hi everyone, this is my first post here. I should preface this post by saying that although I love all things paranormal, I am an extreme skeptic. However, this experience may have changed my mind. In my final year of my university degree, my classmates and I were attending something called Fall Field Camp. Basically, it is a 4 to 5 day field course where we do a lot of outdoor field work and put into practice the skills that we've learned throughout the degree. We were staying with a family that owned a farm and numerous properties out in the middle of nowhere. We were divided into groups and each group was staying at one of the farmhouses the family owned, all in various states of disrepair. When my group arrived at our farmhouse, there were immediate jokes of it being haunted. The place looked like something right out of a horror film. It almost looked abandoned. We went inside and started touring the old farmhouse, which had ancient, rusted metal farm tools hung on the walls and old wooden floors that creaked beneath our feet. It was a very eerie place. After the tour and more jokes of our haunted dwelling, everyone began to settle in for the night. Bedrooms were claimed and bags were unpacked. I quickly chose a room with one of my closest girlfriends, then headed down to the living room to chill for the evening. The living room had a small wood stove, some ancient rocking chairs, and an old dusty couch which sat against the staircase leading upstairs. Basically, the stairs were right behind the couch, so at the bottom of the stairs you could reach right through the rungs of the railing and touch the couch. I was sitting on the couch while my friend Aiden started making a fire in the wood stove. We were chatting nonchalantly about nothing of real importance. He finished lighting the fire and sat in one of the rocking chairs across from me. Our conversation continued as we wondered what would be in store for us over the next few days at camp. Then something I cannot explain happened. As I sat there on the couch, I felt something touch the top of my head. It felt like someone put their hand directly on top of my head. At the same time, I felt a chill go from the top of my head, down my spine, and through my legs. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. It was honestly the most terrifying feeling I've had in my entire life. It wasn't so much that the feeling of the hand on top of my head was scary, but it was the feeling that came along with it. It was nothing like I've ever experienced before. I was absolutely terrified and frozen in place. I immediately felt cold, even with the heat of the wood stove burning near me. The logical part of me snapped me back to reality, as I figured one of my housemates was probably just trying to scare me, knowing I was a horror movie lover and paranormal fan. It would have been easy for someone to stand behind me on the stairs and reach through the rungs and touch me. I immediately turned around to confront whoever was trying to scare me, but nobody was there. The staircase was completely empty. I felt another chill go through my body as I came to that realization. My friend Aiden kept chatting with me, and I tried to carry on the conversation as if nothing had happened. I didn't want to be that person who claimed to be touched by a ghost within an hour of being in this creepy old house. I figured nobody would believe me anyway and just think I was doing it for attention. Just then, one of my friends descended the staircase and the stairs creaked and moaned with each step. I then put together in my head that it would have been impossible for someone to sneak down the staircase to scare me without being heard. To this day, I have no explanation for what happened. As I said, I am a skeptic of the paranormal, but this is an experience I am dumbfounded by. I have told a few spiritual friends about this experience, and they all believe that it was a paranormal encounter. Maybe you can let me know what you think. No words can accurately describe the feeling I got during this encounter, and I've never felt anything like it again. Even with my skepticism, I believe that house was haunted. Our next story is titled The Nightly Knock at 3 a.m. This is a story that happened to me 4 years ago when I was in university. I was 19 and my campus was old, so old that it was known to be haunted. By known, I mean we always had ghost hunters and paranormal investigators interested in our campus. Our campus was small too. It used to be a neighborhood in the 1800s. The buildings are historic now, and the neighborhood is the campus. So the classes, everything, is held in these old mansions. You could ask anyone, and we all have haunted stories to tell you. But I was well into my second year and hadn't experienced anything yet, so I didn't believe it. My friend had bought a tarot deck, and she claimed to communicate with the spirit she came into contact with. Now, at the time, I was fairly religious and did feel safe with tarot, but she promised me that it was fine. Yet the readings were always so negative. Anyone who came for a reading got the most negative outcome. Boyfriend hasn't replied to you in an hour? He's cheating. You failed your test? Might as well drop out. She also didn't cleanse or do protection, but again, I was a doubter and hadn't experienced anything. Until November 7th at 3 a.m. in the morning. I stayed up late all the time talking to my friend. We ended the call at 2:30 a.m. I shut the lights off and was just scrolling on my phone, and I heard 3 loud knocks at exactly 3 a.m. It wasn't from the wall, it was from my bed frame. There was no logical explanation for it. This continued every night at exactly 3 a.m. for a week. I was convinced I was crazy. 8 days later, it was 2:59 a.m. and I waited. The clock turned to 3 a.m. No knock. Weird, I thought, but I was glad whatever it was left. I closed my eyes for 1 second and heard a soft woman's voice. Hello, can you hear me? I shot out of bed and flicked the light on. F this school, F this room. I was terrified. I ran to my friend's room and she let me sleep on the floor. The next day, my roommate came to me and told me she was spooked the other night. She said, I was laying in my bed reading and I look up and a woman in an 1800s dress was just staring at me. We brought a medium to read our room and she told us that our tarot friend was not doing proper protection. Therefore, the spirits in our very active area were attracted to our reading and us. She said the spirit was not particularly negative, but was a woman who died young and did not live a fulfilling life. She could not pass on. We ended up cleansing the area. The medium helped the spirit move on, and we never had problems after that. Our next story is titled, Grew Up in a 315-year-old House and Thought All the Strange Happenings Were Normal. When I was a baby, my parents bought an old house in a historical society that used to be a toll house way back in the day. It's approximately 315 years old, but I think I am lowballing it. I had never felt completely safe in that house for the 25 years I lived there. When I was a kid, I thought it was normal to just feel like you were always being watched and to feel something hanging on your back. I wasn't allowed to go to other people's houses or have anybody over until I got to around middle school. I remember going to a friend's normal modern house when I was 12 and immediately feeling safe and private. I didn't feel eyes burning into me. It was so strange to feel that, and I remember dreading going home. It didn't fully click that my house was odd, though, until friends came over and they said my house was creepy. I remember going to the bathroom while they were waiting in my bedroom. My dad was asleep in bed and my mom was in her office working, 1 floor and several rooms adjacent away. I came back from the bathroom and they had asked me who I was talking to. I said, I wasn't talking at all, I was in the bathroom. And I remember my one friend telling me that she heard 2 women whispering just outside my door. She thought I was talking to my mom. That moment really chilled me. They were afraid to sleep in my room and ended up staying awake all night. I remember most nights when I would go to bed, it would feel like a man was watching me through the window. I slept on the 2nd floor. It felt like there would be somebody standing on the roof watching me, even though I know there physically was nobody there. I begged my mom for years to get curtains, but she refused. She refused to put any curtains up in the house, and I always felt watched from the roof and backyard. I eventually put up blankets to feel safe, but I still felt eyes burning into me. We had a decently furnished basement where my brother and I had all our video game stuff. Anytime I brought friends down there, they would always ask to go back upstairs instead, but never said why. I grew to love and hate the basement, as it was a respite from my mother. But then I would have to deal with the door opening and shutting by itself, as well as feeling hands on my ankles from time to time if I tried to nap. I remember one time asking my brother if he had ever experienced that, and he said he would often feel a sensation of a hand by his feet, but ignored it because it was that or deal with my mother. Not getting into that can of worms, but yes, we preferred being terrified instead of dealing with our mother. It soon became a running joke not to go into the basement unless you wanted to get grabbed. And it became normal to just feel effing uncomfortable down there at all times. Not many things happened to me physically at that house. Almost always it was feelings of being watched or seeing a figure in my peripheral, only to turn and nothing be there. There are a few more things of note that I can think of now, and one is that there were regularly footsteps in my parents' bedroom. But unlike everything else that happened at that house, this was comforting. In the summer, we would sleep on my parents' floor because it saved on AC. I would stay up very late on my Game Boy while my parents slept, but frequently the sound and feeling of footsteps would go by me on the floor. This was when I was very young, and it was just a normal thing, and they made me feel safe, like whoever was walking around was making sure everything was all right. Even as I got older and would sit in the room directly below, if I heard the footsteps up there while my parents were in other rooms, I kind of felt at ease, like whoever was up there wanted me to know they were there. Also, we had a quite large backyard, about an acre of land, and it was really pretty. But I would often have terrifying nightmares of it most nights. I would have bad dreams about people dragging me out there or wild animals attacking me while figures watched. I honestly believe people may have died out there. I stayed out of the backyard as much as possible when I lived there, and those dreams plagued me for years. The last thing I can think of off the top of my head was when I was in senior year of high school. My mom and I were really at odds as I was the only child left in the house. She kept asking me to sleep on the floor in the living room. At this point in my life, she slept on the couch and my dad slept in the bed because he genuinely snores so loud she couldn't take it. I really didn't want to sleep in there with her. The living room has 4 large windows, 2 facing outside and 2 facing the backyard. I hated it. I reluctantly agreed, and I remember her leaving the TV on some animal channel when she fell asleep. I was laying on the floor on my phone when suddenly I felt a hand, a full hand, palm and fingers, lay on the back of my head and very quickly shoved my head down into the pillow. I'm getting anxious typing about it. The only people home were my mom, myself, and my dad. I could hear my dad snoring upstairs, and my mom was 5 feet away on the couch. I was utterly terrified and yelled, "Stop," and hid under my pillow in fear. My mom freaked out and had no idea what was going on, and I was too afraid to move. She didn't believe me when I told her what had happened, and I remember going back up to my bedroom and praying to whatever God would listen to keep me safe from whatever had done that. I could still feel the phantom sensation of that hand, and I remember basically never going into the living room again after that, unless it was daytime and somebody else was with me. The older I got, the less safe I felt in that house. I eventually isolated myself to the bedroom when I wasn't at school or work, but I couldn't fall asleep until 8 or 9 in the morning. I always just felt watched. I started buying white and black candles from the local pagan store, as they told me white was to promote positive energy and black was to protect my mind. You can imagine, after 25 years of weird shit and feeling unsafe, I was willing to try anything to keep me feeling somewhat sane. It helped a lot, but maybe it was just a placebo, who knows. Now I live in an apartment very far away from that house and experience 0 paranormal things. I don't feel watched, I don't feel scared, I don't have nightmares, and I finally feel safe. I hate going there to visit my parents. Our next story is titled Peekaboo Ghost. This happened years ago when I lived in Florida. A few months after moving into our house, I started seeing a teenage boy. When watching TV, I would see a boy out of the corner of my eye. He would peek around the corner from the kitchen into the living room. And as soon as I would look at him, he would go back into the kitchen. I could only ever see him out of my peripheral. But as soon as my head would turn or my eyes would completely turn towards him, he would be gone. This would happen over and over, all night. Then one day I was in the kitchen making dinner. I was playing music. We have an alarm system that chimes when the doors or windows open in the house. And like I said, I was cooking dinner, and my husband would sometimes try to startle me or spook me whenever he would get home, but I would always hear the chime of the door. So I had my back to that doorway that the boy would peek from, and I felt and heard footsteps run up on me very quickly. I turned expecting to see my husband there, and instead there was nothing. I just stood there frozen in fear and shock for a second, staring. I ran over to the living room, looked outside, and my husband's car was not there. Then I would still continue to see the boy poking his head from the corner of the kitchen into the living room. My husband and I started to go through a divorce, and I was staying in the master bedroom. So I was rarely ever in the living room anymore. I kind of secluded myself into the master bedroom, and that's where I stayed. I would go get food and immediately go right back up to the bedroom. So I lived there for several months like that. The boy one day appeared in the corner by the closed bedroom door. I saw him. He was standing right there in the corner, and I said, "You are not allowed up here. You are not allowed in the space upstairs." And he disappeared. And I think that he missed interacting with me downstairs and came to kind of find me. But once I told him not to come upstairs, he didn't anymore. But I imagine if you're a spirit and you finally have somebody that can somewhat interact with you, or at least acknowledge you, you would want to have that. And he didn't have that anymore. So he came looking for me, but respected my wishes whenever I asked him not to come upstairs. And I think that day in the kitchen when the footsteps ran up on me, I do think it was him. But I think when he saw how scared I was, it never happened again. And I never got a malicious feeling from him or any kind of feeling that he was bad. I think he was just fine. He didn't give me any bad feelings, but I think he also realized he scared me that day and didn't intend to. And then when he showed up in the bedroom, was kind of missing our small peekaboo interactions that we had. He may have also just been checking on me to see if I was okay, but did respect my wishes. So that last story there is one of mine from when I lived in Florida. So that was my story, one of my stories. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to let you finish watching me do my spider webs, and I'll be back. I wanted to give Trisha's Nail Inspo credit for using the little brush to then top coat your lines so that everything isn't shiny. That way I can still keep my matte part, but have the spider webs be shiny. So thank you for that tip in your video, Trisha. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It helps YouTube recommend it to others. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment below or find me on Instagram at DippingPixie. Make sure you're subscribed with your notifications on. I have new videos every Monday and Thursday. That's it for this one, guys, and I will see you in the next one.